Manchester City are a completely different team now. Pep Guardiola just doesn't seem like himself, and neither does his Manchester City team. The reigning Premier League champions look out of sorts. What started as a minor hiccup has spiralled into something much bigger. City are in full crisis mode. Is this the beginning of the end for their dominance and Pep Guardiola at the top of the game? Let's dig deep into the reasons why Manchester City's form has dropped off a cliff. It all began with that unexpected loss to Spurs in the Carabao Cup. At first, it felt like just a bump in the road. After all, every great team slips up once in a while. But what none of us realised, that this wasn't just a blip, it was the start of a nightmare. Days later, City suffered a jaw-dropping defeat to Bournemouth. Yes, let that sink in. Bournemouth, a team they had never lost to in their history. That loss snapped City's incredible 32-game unbeaten streak in the Premier League. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, Sporting Lisbon humiliated them in the Champions League with a 4-1 thrashing, ending a remarkable 26-game unbeaten run in Europe. Yet still, we all thought this is Manchester City, they'll bounce back, but then came Brighton. City struck first, taking the lead, but somehow they let it slip away and lost. And that loss wasn't just another bad day, it made history. It was the first time in Pep Guardiola's entire managerial career that he'd lost 4 games in a row. For City, this was their worst losing streak in 18 years. And to make matters worse, it was the first time in over 3 years that they'd lost a match after leading at half-time. But here's the kicker, this slump didn't even start with the Spurs loss. The warning signs were there long before. Struggles against Southampton, Brentford and Fulham, a goalless draw with Inter Milan in the Champions League, a desperate last-minute winner to scrape past Wolves, a 98th minute equaliser to avoid defeat against Arsenal. The cracks were showing, but no one expected the dam to break this hard. This isn't the Manchester City we've come to know, so what's really going on here? Well, for starters, Manchester City has lost its rhythm. Both Pep Guardiola and Bernardo Silva have pointed out the same crazy thing. City dominated games, controlled the ball, but somehow, out of nowhere, they conceded chances and goals that cost them the matches. They've now lost to Spurs again, this time a 4-0 thrashing. They threw away a 3-goal lead against Feyenoord before losing to Liverpool, Juventus and now bitter City rivals, Manchester United. Again, this isn't the City we're used to. Same manager, same tactics, same style of play. They press high, force opponents offside and dominate possession, just like always. But for some reason, it's not working. They're doing all the right things, yet the results just aren't coming. So what's different? Why the sudden drop in form? Let's call it what it is. Injuries have been a nightmare for City. Remember how they kicked off the season? They looked unstoppable, brushing aside Chelsea, West Ham and Ipswich like it was nothing. But then came that game on September 22nd, Arsenal. Rodri goes down with a serious knee injury, and just like that, the entire season shifts. Rodri isn't just another player, he's the heartbeat of this City team. The defensive wall, the midfield mastermind. He's the guy who makes City tick, and there's a reason he won the Ballon d'Or. And losing him for the season, it's devastating. The numbers don't lie. Since Rodri joined City, he's missed 45 games. Of those, they've only managed to win 30. Compare that to when he's on the pitch, and their win rate explodes to 74%. That is a huge difference. Rodri is, without doubt, the game changer for this team. Pep Guardiola said it best, defensive midfielders are the unsung heroes, the brains behind the operation. While the attackers get all the glory, players like Rodri quietly pull the strings, orchestrating everything. And Pep should know, he was a defensive midfielder himself and has worked with some of the best in that position like Sergio Busquets and Xabi Alonso. And without Rodri, Man City's midfield feels lost. The team hasn't found anyone who can fill his boots, and it's showing. And Rodri isn't the only issue. City's injury list is wild. John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Jeremy Doku, Jack Grealish, Oscar Bob, they've all been sidelined. Even key players like Manuel Akanji and Nathan Ake are dealing with fitness concerns. And let's not forget Kevin De Bruyne, who's only just come back from injury and is still far from his best. Some say City should still be winning games regardless, but it's not that simple. With so many injuries, Pep's been forced to make tough calls, reshuffling his team just to stay afloat. You've got 19-year-old Simpson Puzzi making his debut against Brighton, and the rest of the bench, youngsters like Josh Wilson-Esbrand, James McAtee and Nico O'Reilly. These are talented kids who, under normal circumstances, would have been given time to develop. Instead, they've been thrown into the spotlight because there's simply no other choice. But let's be honest, City played a part in this by not strengthening their squad during the summer transfer window. Yes, injuries are unpredictable, but the need for reinforcements was pretty obvious. A backup for Rodri was needed, and finding someone to ease the workload on Haaland made sense too. Even adding another winger or a fullback could have made a difference. Instead, they let players like Alvarez, Cancelo and Gomez leave. Players who could have provided the depth they're now crying out for. Sure, they signed Savinho and brought back Gundogan, but Gundogan, who was a goal-scoring machine in his first spell, hasn't quite hit the same heights this time around. Looking back, City's summer transfer window left a lot to be desired. They missed a golden opportunity to strengthen their squad, and now they're paying the price for those decisions. Losing a Ballon d'Or winner and other key players is a massive blow for any team, but this feels like more than that. There's a lasting sense that something's off, maybe even with Pep Guardiola himself. It might sound surprising, but could Pep be running out of ideas? Think about it. Pep's been at the top of the game for years, redefining football wherever he's been. But even the best need a break. He took one after Barcelona and it worked wonders. Maybe it's time for another. Everyone needs to recharge eventually, and Pep's been operating at full throttle for so long. Then there's the team itself. After winning everything, Champions League, Premier League and breaking countless records, how do you stay hungry? How do you maintain that same fire when you've already reached the peak of the football world? Even Pep himself has admitted that after winning 6 Premier League titles in 7 years, maybe it's time for someone else to take the crown. And let's not forget, City had their share of off-field issues this season. It might seem minor, but those things can really impact a team's performance. All of these accusations against City seem to be taking a serious toll on Pep and the team. The weight of the constant scrutiny is undeniable, and it doesn't help that everyone's so quick to assume guilt before the facts are even out. That cloud of uncertainty is hard to ignore, and it's clearly affecting them mentally. But that's not the only issue. Kevin De Bruyne's future is now up in the air too. His contract expires next summer, and if City wanted to cash in, they should have done it months ago. Now they risk losing one of their greatest ever players for free. Losing De Bruyne in any capacity would be a blow, but for nothing, that would sting. So what's next for Pep? He's a tactical genius, no doubt, but this might be his toughest challenge yet. He'll need to dig deep, adjust his strategy, and inspire his players to rediscover their fire. The talent is there, we've seen it time and time again. It's just about finding a way to get it clicking again. City also need their injured stars back, and fast. Kevin De Bruyne is now back, but he still needs time to get back to his best. If players like Doku, Grealish, Stones and Diaz can return to full fitness, City will be a different beast. But it's not just about recovering physically. The entire squad needs to find that hunger again. They've got to snap out of this slump, and quickly. But what do you think? Can City bounce back from this slump and reclaim their Premier League crown? Is Guardiola running out of ideas? Or is this the beginning of the end of their dominance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more football stories.